Here's the first game. We'll be playing red light, green light. You're allowed to move forward when it shouts out green light. Stop when it shouts red light. If your movement is detected afterwards, PJ Pug-a-pillar will descend upon your location and sacrifice you to Mommy Longlegs. Real talk though, why is the statues game just the concept behind the first game of Squid Games with the setting of the second game? Hello everybody and welcome back to the Toy Factory. And if you're new here, hi, my name is Luna and somewhere around here is my editor Theo. We're happy to have you here where there is definitely no giant blue man eating Sour Patch Kids. Although I can't guarantee you protection against killer rabbits, no matter what we do, they always come back. Today we're returning once again to the vibrant halls of Playtime Co, but before we get there, let's make a pit stop at the subscribe button. And yes, I know that was cringe, but statistically it's the best way to increase subscribers. Now, off to the disclaimer wing. The creators of Poppy Playtime have gotten themselves into a lot of drama since the game's release, and if you're curious as to what I'm talking about, I'll be linking a video in the description down below. Now, major spoiler warning for both chapters of Poppy Playtime from this point forward. If you've already played Poppy Playtime or don't want to sit through a synopsis, here's the timestamp to skip to. For everybody else, hop aboard the Playtime Express and let's get going. Someone please revoke my right to make those kinds of jokes. Chapter 2 starts where Chapter 1 lets off, immediately after we freed Poppy from her case. A quick trip back down the hallway reveals that a giant dresser was moved that we couldn't move in the first chapter, but apparently the tiny porcelain doll can move. After walking down the unnecessarily long corridor, we end up at the office of Elliot Ludwig. A few failed attempts to be Spider-Man and one really creepy Huggy Wuggy cutout later, we finally make it into the office of the creator. You know, after playing Bendy and the Ink Machine, I honestly expected Elliot's office to be more flashy and self-centered. I mean, aside from the weird autobiographical tape on his desk, it seems like a relatively normal office. Because, you know, I too have a secret tunnel in my office that leads to the hidden walkways of the factory. Then we find Poppy, who immediately jumps into apologetic angel mode, which is a total personality flip from Chapter 1 that I don't believe for a second. She gives us a super thankful speech saying we're going to get out of the factory before leading us to a definitely not terrifying or ominous crater in the ground. She's about to tell us why it's important to trust her when a giant pink hand reaches out of the pit and snatches her up. So naturally we do what any good horror game protagonist would do and we jump in after her. One hallway later, our hand gets snatched by Mommy Longlegs and she tells us if we want to escape via train, then we must first play her games. And thus begins our recreation of Chapter 3 of Bendy and the Ink Machine. And in true return to the lift, my little errand boy fashion, we get the totally out of left field line, Mommy knows other ways to play with you. I swear, my brain short-circuited when I heard that, and not in the good way. In the third game, we sneak away and she goes full other mother on us, which is funny because immediately afterwards, this happens. Then we run off to free Poppy, who, surprise, surprise, isn't so thankful anymore. She tells us to board the train and we escape. Oh, we're too perfect to lose and Poppy crashes the train? Yeah, no, that's great. That's fantastic. Now can I talk about how Playtime Co is just a front for Elliot's attempt to create a rat version of Frankenstein? Let's map out a semi-timeline. Playtime Co was founded in 1930, and at some point that same year his wife divorced him. It wouldn't be until 1950 that Poppy would be released. This leaves 20 years where the actions of the factory and its inhabitants are unaccounted for. A little insight into the actions of Elliot Ludwig can be provided in the form of a note on his desk that reads as follows. Experiment 814. Notes. This experiment utilized a live rat. Rat was fed 3 portions daily for 2 weeks. At the end of the 2 weeks, the rat was killed and submerged into a poppy flower and preservative gel mixture. 1 week later, an electric shock was applied to the rat. Still in the gel, in an attempt to revive it. The rat remained unresponsive. Analysis. I still believe in the potential of the poppy flower. Its unusual properties led me to believe that the proper mixture and procedure could have life-altering properties. The poppy flower has for a long time carried heavy symbolism, and I don't believe that's for no reason. Perhaps something larger than a rat would yield different results. This shows that the name Poppy wasn't just for the alliteration, and it has a significantly more sinister meaning. Move over, Joey Drew, the new creator is in town, and he also wants to. However, instead of living ink, he decided to go with his own herbal remedies and essential oils. Don't worry, little Timmy, Susan isn't dead. She just needs some lavender oil and a few experiments and she'll be jump scaring in no time. This note tells us a couple critical things. 1, they're experimenting with the poppy flower in an attempt to bring animals back to life. 2, they're using electricity, similar to Frankenstein. Funnily enough, there was a Frankenstein play in 1927 and a movie in 1931, both of which would be sufficient inspiration for Ludwig's edition of The Controlled Shock. 3, they're feeding the test subject something beforehand, but at this moment it didn't specify and we don't know what it is. And finally, 4, the experiments are going to progress to bigger test subjects. The last one is the one I want to focus on for a moment. There's only so many cats and dogs you can kill before neighbors and animal shelters stop trusting you. So what's the next most logical step? Exactly, stopping what you're doing. But what does Elliot Ludwig do? He starts experimenting on humans. There are many clues we can use to figure that out, but we only need one. Observe here the character model for the prototype, or Experiment 1006, and you will see what is clearly bones. Specifically the ulna and radius bones of the human forearm. This shows that Elliot Ludwig was in fact experimenting on humans, but this is where the theory gets significantly more complicated. Playtime Co. is a front for Elliot Ludwig's twisted experiments. Now, I know at bare level that feels like a well duh moment, but like I said, it's significantly more complicated. First, consider this correspondence between Eddie M.N. Ritterman and Warrenbach, where Eddie talks about their contract to excavate a large underground area that no one else can know about. Where else do we see a large underground area? The game station. Now, how do I know the game station is the aforementioned underground area? A note from Dr. Matthew Wason that can be found in the control room near the end of Chapter 2 details his request for windows with artificial light to be added to the game room. He says, "I know there's not really a good way to get natural light down here," showing this is the deep underground area, only accessible by a select few. Those people being Eddie MNR, Leif Pierre, Elliot Ludwig, Stella Graber, and a fifth person whose name was knocked off its pegs. The letters AA, BEH, IJ, MNO, and Y are on the floor in front of the slide. The pegs indicate a 5-letter first name and a 6-letter last name, and despite Theo's insistence that they spell Hebe Joyman, my best guess is the fifth person goes by the name of Jonah Bainey. These people use the game station to test children on their accuracy, reaction time, spatial awareness, and speed. Mommy Longlegs would walk the kids between each test, while the proctors would observe from the windows above. Each test is designed to see how well they would do in the following experiments. For example, musical memory, testing their memory and ability to follow instructions.
This advanced memory and cognitive recognition test is designed to stimulate several segments of the brain, allowing us to see how quickly and efficiently your brain works.
Side note, when your game glitches out and all glowing lights regardless of color shine bright white, it makes playing a color matching game very difficult. You can see via the proctor forms found in the statue's control room that they're assigning kids to toys that they shall become, showing that they are in fact experimenting on the children. Now let's relate all of this back to Playtime Co. being a front. As previously established, Playtime Co. opened in 1930, and within the same year his wife had divorced him. Now, I don't know if you guys know this, but divorces take a really long time to settle, so most logically she was already in the process of divorcing him before Playtime Co. opened. But according to the Poppy Playtime website, it was his relentless work ethic that cost his marriage. His work being experiments like 814 that he would have been conducting long before the factory opened. He needed Playtime Co. to get to bigger test subjects. You can see clearly in the game station test subject assessment forms that they are testing children. This is further affirmed by the doctor in his letter where he states, "The kids are getting rowdy too. The kids that are buried deep underground, hidden from the general public and most of the staff, where only Elliot Ludwig, the scientist, and his most trusted advisors can find them. A place where he can run experiments that the public can't see. Where he can hide behind the guise of Playtime Co. and their charitable acts, while trying to circumvent death itself behind the scenes." I just wanted to say thank you everybody for watching this video, and a huge thank you to Theo for editing this. Consider pressing subscribe, like, maybe even leaving a comment. It would mean the world to me. And remember, that's just a game. A theory. I'm losing it.